So, good morning, everybody, wherever you are. So, this is Kiara. It's April 25th, 2020. So, over the last few sessions, we've been doing a lot of the practices from the Cuero Inca tradition in South America, which I really appreciate because it comes from a space that's beyond duality, and it teaches us how to energetically link in with dimensions beyond the personal dimension. So they talk about the upper world and the middle world and the lower world, and how we can expand our consciousness so we can simultaneously live in all three. So it's not a choice of one or the other, it's becoming spacious enough and wide enough so we can experience ourselves as multidimensional spirit and matter, experiencing ourselves as divine and human, and being a creator within creation. So what I'd like to do today is talk a little bit about another one of my deep inspirations, which is the practice of integral yoga. It comes from the work of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, who lived in Pondicherry during the last century. And their work was about bringing what they call the Supplemental Force. It's a field of light beyond all dimensions of duality, out to the very boundary of creation itself, and that the connect with the mind of the self, Satchitananda. This is a divine consciousness, the self that we are. But this self, this aspect of the self, has not really been able to manifest into the worlds of matter. In many ways, it's been too far beyond our comprehension in the evolutionary stream, beyond what our nervous systems can currently embody, beyond what our minds can currently understand or experience. But gradually, as evolution progresses, as the nervous system opens up, as the mind expands, this level of consciousness, this creator consciousness, can step in. And this is what the work of integral yoga is about. So something happened in 1956, which is really important. So this is the day known as Supplemental Day, when after the passing of Sri Aurobindo, the mother, her name is actually Mira Alfassa from Paris. She came to Pondicherry, joined Sri Aurobindo in this work, and was thereafter known simply as the mother. And she experienced this supplemental force embodying itself through her body into the body of the earth. And there's a description that she has for this. She says, "This evening, the divine presence, concrete and material, was there present amongst you." So not just an ethereal presence, but a very concrete physical presence. "I had a form of living gold, bigger than the universe." In other words, beyond the boundaries of physical time and space. "And I was facing a huge and massive golden door which separated the world from the divine." So, we live in two worlds simultaneously. Most of the time we're not aware of the worlds beyond the form, beyond the physical. And so that's represented, that boundary is represented as this massive golden door. "As I looked at the door, I knew and willed in a single moment of consciousness that the time has come. And lifting with both hands a mighty golden hammer, I struck one blow, one single blow on the door, and the door was shattered to pieces. Then the supplemental light and force and consciousness rushed down upon earth in an uninterrupted flow. So this is 29th February 1956. So in many ways this was the beginning of a new dispensation. In many ways this could be called the birthing of another age, literally a golden age. And once that initial descent could take place, then it's simply about widening it. It's like continuing to hold that door open, keeping it open wider and wider and wider, so that this force can manifest and embody itself within all aspects of creation. Not just the physical aspects of matter, but also into a collective human consciousness, going deep into the inconscient, the unconscious realms where we've held so much pain and suffering, so much duality and separation from the past, which informs us, which continues to entrance us. And this is the shadow realm which the supramental light can enter, release, and transform. And once that begins, then it's like an uninterrupted flow. It continues from one single source point until it becomes this great big river of creative consciousness. And what I notice is that every year that goes by, every month, every day, there's new realms that open before us. And I wanted to explain, as I've explained a little bit in the past, what the supplemental force looks like and feels like. It's not just going to be love and light, as people imagine. There's not room for love and light in its totality in our human consciousness yet. Just simply because it's such a strong, powerful force that if it were to descend in its entirety, our nervous systems would completely disintegrate, our bodies would disintegrate. It's just too much for us right now. In the Hindu tradition, this force is represented by Shiva. Many of you are aware that Shiva represents the destructive and recreative aspects of creation. Brahma is the creator itself. Vishnu is the sustainer. And then Shiva is the one who breaks down something that's outmoded, something that's served its purpose, something that's ready to dissolve, so that something new can be born. And right now we are in that transition point. We are ready to let go, we are ready to release outworn forms, whether it be personal consciousness or human structures, political, economic, social, environmental structures. So astrologically, a lot of planets are going through Capricorn right now. Saturn's in Capricorn, which is about releasing, encountering and then releasing the deep it's like inertia within matter, within our social structures, which is being released now. Pluto is there. Actually, Pluto just passed that. Uranus is there, breaking up old forms very forcefully, very suddenly, in ways that we can't fully understand on a conscious level. So here we are, going through Capricorn as a planetary consciousness. Pluto is actually conjuncting the US national chart right now. In 2024 it will be exact. So if we go by the birth chart of the US, which took place in 1776. Pluto is a 248-year cycle. And the US represents, in a sense, the first wave of a new possibility, simply because it's such a collective, it's such a melting pot of cultures, including Native American cultures, including people who migrated from all around the world. So it represents new possibilities, and Pluto is there right now, transforming that. So this time period between now and 2024, worldwide, will be a time of immense transformation. What I mean by transformation in the supramental context, as these unified energies slip into creation, the hucha, the blockages, anything that resists these energies starts to come up to the surface. So it's not simply dissolving without a trace. It has to come up so it can be seen, so it can be acknowledged and then released. It's the same with any psychological process. You face it, you look at it without fear, you acknowledge that it's how it served you, and then you realize it's not necessary any longer, and it's okay to let go. And then you stretch further out. You open to other fields of awareness. You begin to trust something beyond yourself and allow that something to come through you. And that's how we evolve into the next stage of our current evolution. So integral yoga in this context is the journey. It's how we bring this supramental light through, how we transform our psyche, how we enter those deep shadows, how we begin to open more and more to the realms of light, how we live from those realms of light until our physical bodies, our DNA, our genetics start to transform. And that's the creation of the new species. So we are joining here as a human species with the body and the consciousness of Gaia, so that we can be part of this evolution together with her in a way that can also bring in all of life into this new awareness. So it's a big task, but it's what we're here for. And so all the practices that we're doing here is in supporting this task, to open up to what Gaia has in mind for us. Gaia is the Great Mother, the Planetary Mother, the Cosmic Mother, Pachamama, and the divine aspect of ourselves can step forward to create what's needed, what's being called forth at this time. So I'll just read a little bit more about the supramental creation. In the supramental creation, there will no longer be any religions in the sense of dogmas that separate us from each other, that give us, rules about what we are, what we're supposed to be, what's right and wrong from an external place. The whole life will be the expression, the flowering into forms of the divine unity manifesting in the world. And they will no longer be what men now call gods, not separate from us. These great divine beings themselves will be able to participate in the new creation. But to do so, they will have to put on what we would call the supramental substance on earth. And if some of them choose to remain in their world as they are, if they decide not to manifest physically, the relation with the beings of the supramental earth will be a relation of friends, collaborators, equals. For the highest divine essence will be manifested in the beings of the supramental worlds on earth. That's us. We become gods we manifest those energies of creation through us. So all the archetypes of the gods, whether in the Hindu tradition it's Shiva and Parvati and Lakshmi and Saraswati and Ganesh and so on. In the Egyptian tradition it's Isis and Osiris and Horus and Sekhmet and so on. Also the same goes for any given tradition, the Norse, the Maya, the Hopi. There's all these different archetypal gods and goddesses, but they're no longer outside of us, above us, or separate from us. They incarnate through us. So when we talk about Shiva, we're talking about incarnating Shiva, incarnating this power of creation, and using that power of creation to release old forms that no longer serve, so that something new can emerge uninterruptedly and powerfully. It happens by simply opening ourselves to these divine energies, surrendering to it, letting go of our personal identity, which keeps us trapped in the matrix of duality, and then just allowing the supplemental force to flow. Trusting that it has its own direction, its own purpose, and its own intelligence. The Hopis have this prophecy about these times. They say the time of purification is here now, and this great river is rising, and we are here trying to hold on to the shore, trying to hold on to our safety, our security, our old identity, but the river is just rising up too quickly. We cannot hold on to the banks. We must let go. We must let go, surrendering to the force of this river, even though if we don't know where that river is taking us. We just simply trust that the river knows its direction, the river knows its purpose, and the river is constantly flowing into the great ocean. It comes from the great ocean, it flows back to the great ocean, and then we become part of this great ocean as we surrender to this river. And so this is our journey. So again, as before, I just wanted to lay a foundation, an understanding of who we are, why we're here, so that as we move into the next phase of meditation, we can become the river. We can open to the supplemental force. We can allow that force to flow through us into all the activities of life, wherever there's hucha, clearing and releasing, purifying that inconscient energy, so that the force of light, unified light, can be divinely manifest here and now. All right, so again, welcome all of you. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. I keep forgetting this. We're doing a 5-day webinar. So normally at this time I'm traveling and teaching in Europe and elsewhere, but because of our current global lockdown, we are doing some webinars instead. So this is a 5-day webinar that's being hosted by friends in Holland. And if you'd be interested, it starts May 9th and 10th. So this will be like an intro into some of these practical teachings. And then May 13th to 15th will be a dive into the deep end. So how do we manifest these energies in our daily life? How do we purify the different aspects of our being? How do we prepare ourselves to embody these divine energies? How can we trust this flow in a way that we can let go of the personal self and just simply allow the divine to flow through us uninterruptedly? So this will be 9th and 10th of May, followed by 13th to 15th of May. So contact Jamie Franken@hotmail.com, and I'll just post that information again, although it's out there on my website. Alright, so let's take this time we have left and go into the global meditation space. So the same practice, become aware of the bubble of light surrounding the physical body, extending out 2 meters in all directions. So this bubble is the boundary of the middle world, the personal self, and the intention now is to go beyond the personal self to connect with the soul of the earth, out across the cosmos to the infinite self. So become aware of a window directly over the top of this bubble. So is the upper crown couple meters over the top of the head, also sometimes known as a soul star. And you open this window as wide as you can. So it's just an intent. You open that window with your intent and then simply surrender to this flow of light that starts pouring through spontaneously on its own. Allowing this waterfall of light to uninterruptedly flow through the physical body, the subtle etheric body, the prana body, and then the mental emotional bodies, moving through your sense of personal identity, releasing whatever hucha, whatever fears, whatever traumas we've been holding that are now ready to let go. Releasing that hucha down through the feet into the earth. Feeling Mother Earth welcome these energies so she can transform them. And then a response. So you have the earth energies rising up through your feet, up through the entire bubble, through that window, out to the sky. So these energies are magnetic. Remember that electrical and magnetic forces are the polarity of creation. And spirit has to do with the polarity of electricity, and matter has to do with the polarity of magnetism. It's condensing spirit into a field where it can be manifested externally in physical form. So you have infinite plasma stretched across the universe through these electrical filaments of light extending out across the galaxies. And then when these condense, it creates magnetic fields, which then allows for substance to condense around this to create matter. So it's an alchemy. And Mother Earth, as an alchemist, is one who manifest these magnetic forces so that the spiritual energies of the universe can be brought through into creation in a process of evolution, so we can truly learn how to embody and manifest the creator aspect of our being. So it's a great mystery. And as the magnetic energies flow up from the earth, is that invitation to step into form, to embody ourselves, to bring ourselves, our spirit, into these vehicles of matter without resistance and without fear. And so this fountain of light continues to rise up from the earth, up through all of our lower bodies, and these two streams are now moving simultaneously. Electrical flow is moving downwards, magnetic flow is moving upwards. And then this interaction creates a space. And you feel yourself extending out beyond the boundaries of the middle self. You experience yourself simultaneously moving out through the upper worlds and the lower worlds, the worlds of spirit, the worlds of nature, higher levels of the mind, cellular levels of the mind. You feel yourself expanding out on the soul level. And the soul is not locked in time or in space the way that our lower bodies are. And so as we expand into the soul consciousness, we find ourselves stretching further and further out into space, embracing the entire planet, becoming the planet. And now we simply enter into that space of planetary consciousness as a planetary self. And our intent now is simply to be open to the supplemental force, to an intensification of the supplemental light, so it can do whatever is needed to transform, to alchemically transmute the hucha, our current levels of evolution and duality, so we can rise together into the next species that awaits us, Homo luminous, the next planetary awareness that awaits us, Gaia luminous. So all we need to do is simply open, stretch out to connect with the planetary soul, and then just allow that supramental light to flow through. So we'll hold that space for a while together. Such a gift we can be here at this time. From across the galaxies. By the way, for any of you who may have missed some of the earlier sessions in this series, they're also up on my YouTube channel, Kiara Windrider, as well as archived here on Facebook Live, on my Facebook page. So remain in this space of stillness now for as long as you wish. And I'll see you again at 9 a.m. European time next Monday. So we'll be meeting every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday for the foreseeable future, 9 a.m. European time.